Today I'm going to talk to you about Devised Theatre. This is a crossover vlog between Fiery Rockets and my new venture, The Human Condition, which will document a journey through psychology, anthropology, ancient history, sociology, and all those kinds of things. Get over to thehumancondition2012.blogspot.com. I'll also be doing some vlogs on that on the Human Condition YouTube channel, but all of those details are on that blog. Now, the reason I want to talk to you about this is because during my time at Warwick University, in my final year, I did a performance module called Drama, Performance and Identity. It was a very different module than any I'd done before. It involved doing an exam that was a performance, and it's an experience that has stayed with me ever since, and is one of the reasons why I really wanted to get into this industry and into theatre as well as dance. Now, what my group did for this project was to devise a piece of theatre based around the ideas of identity from the text that we had studied throughout the rest of the year. So we came up with this. I still have the script, and we called it A and N. It lasted for about 20 minutes. And the subtitle to A&N was A Rumination on the Relationship Between Identity and Non-Identity, with particular emphasis on accumulation and negation in regard to this theme, explored through the medium of devised theatre by Jen McConnell, Yazaman Hagi-Kat, Elizabeth Holmes and Jay Saigal. As I say, this is something that has stayed with me. With this kind of being a joint vlog between Fiery Rockets and my new venture, The Human Condition, I thought it'd be a nice crossover because it does explore some psychological elements and looks into the human psyche and how that can be expressed through performance, which is something that I really enjoy doing through all kinds of performance, not just theatre.
You are hung up on words. Identity is an agreed set of lies. Identity is a state of mind.
So, this piece talks about the accumulation and negation of identity. What does that mean? The accumulation of identity is when your identity is defined by what you gain, what you have, or what you've experienced. The negation of identity is the opposite of that. It's when your identity is defined by what you are not and what you don't have. Now, to explore this theme, we took a few different characters from various different plays that we studied, and perhaps some of you will be familiar with them. So we had Roy Cohn from Angels in America. We had Ophelia from Hamlet Machine. We also created a character called Dr. Adorno, who was a doctor in the piece. This character vocalised the theories of the theorist Adorno. We also had Ham from Beckett's Endgame. And as well Nag and Nell from the same play. So let's talk a bit more about accumulation. How did we show the accumulation of identity through these characters? Well, Roy Cohn's first speech certainly shows that.
The birth, all that there is. Then a shout, a scream, a cry. Brunette, no, blonde. Blue eyes, brown eyes, no, green eyes. A quiet baby, then a giddy toddler. Falls into nursery, then walks into school. Mathematics, literacy, science. He learns to play. He learns to run, climb, fight, for his own voice. His voice, his voice, his accent, accent, accent.
The accumulation of identity is very heavily related to the idea of tabula rasa. This was an idea that was introduced by the philosopher John Locke, and it basically states that you are a blank slate when you are born, and that your identity builds around you with the experiences that you gain as you go through life. I think that's something that quite a lot of people agree with. And so actually writing the accumulation parts of this devised piece, I personally found a lot easier than the negation parts. Ophelia from Hamlet Machine was one of our negation characters.
I am the one the river didn't keep, the woman who cannot stop dangling from the rope, the woman who cannot keep her arteries closed, the woman who cannot hold from overdosing. With my bleeding hands I tear the photos of the men I loved who used me on the bed, on the table, on the chair, on the ground. I cannot hold the clock that was my heart inside my breast. Do you want to eat my heart?
Basically what you just heard was a rewriting of a speech of Ophelia's from Hamlet Machine to make every sentence within that negative, so that she defines herself by what she is not rather than what she is. We also looked at the idea of performed identity, particularly with the character of Roy Cohn. Now, as I introduce this idea, I'll show you this. This is one reason why this particular project meant so much to me and stayed with me, is because as part of our mark we had to create a journal of how we got to where we did. So, it's from this journal that I remember some of the things that we did. For example, the idea of Roy Cohn being performed identity came from the fact that in the play Angels in America, he demonstrates the complications of that idea. There's an episode in the play where Roy is told that he has AIDS. He then proceeds to tell the doctor, who's just told him this, that he's actually dying of liver cancer. Now this is interesting because Roy admits that his identity is a performance and forces the doctor into being involved in that. Those three things, accumulation, negation and performed identity, were things that came out of our first few meetings and our first few rehearsals. We then tried the idea of turning one scene into a crossover scene where both accumulation and negation would come together, and to see how that would work. Basically what we had was a scene where we would all continuously walk around the space, and there was a table in the middle which served as a hospital bed as well. That table served as a place for different characters to come in and start telling a story. They would start the story halfway through, and they would finish the story not much later, so that when the next person came in, the story somehow seemed to fit but didn't quite, if you see what I mean. Each character that came in to tell their story had an item with them, whether that be an item of clothing, something they were carrying, something in their hair. They would then accidentally leave that item behind. The next person would come along, find this item, throw it in a bin, and then accidentally leave their item behind. So the idea of accumulation there, with that space gaining something and gaining an identity because somebody had been there, somebody had left part of their identity behind, but then that piece of their identity, whatever it was, an item of clothing, a purse, was then quickly thrown into the bin by somebody else. Negation. It's something that they're not, so therefore they didn't see it as part of their identity, they didn't see it to be of value, so they threw it away. And the fact that we both presented accumulation and negation and then brought them together meant that we were presenting the audience with a choice, but not ever commenting on whether one was better than the other. Personally, I favour accumulation. One look around my house shows exactly that. I make a point of collecting things from each experience I have, souvenirs. I am what I have gained and I am what I have lived. I think I'll go for accumulation. How about you?